Welcome to all of our new installers. Just sharing some tips with you to help you apply our products. This video will cover Revive, Graphene Matrix, Graphene, Prolong and Prolong Light. Tip number 1. Make sure you invest in a good quality microfiber cloth. I've got 400 GSM here. The reason for that is our coating is a little bit thicker than some of the products in the market. So when you've applied the coating, it's easier to wipe off, and you want to make sure you get all the residue off, because if you don't and you let it dry, it will cause high spots. The other reason is some paints are just naturally grippier than other paints. So if you've got a grippier paint where the coating is a bit harder to remove, having a good quality thick microfiber cloth will make your life easier, and you won't have to work very hard to remove the coating. Tip number 2. We provide 2 suede cloths with every bottle. The reason for that is, let's say if you're working continuously with the first suede cloth, about half an hour, let's say, you want to take a break, you go away and you come back. The problem with that is the coating will start drying on the surface and it will start becoming hard. And if you use that same cloth and wipe it on there, it can scratch the surface. So make sure you consistently change the suede cloths. If you're working continuously for about half an hour, 45 minutes, fine. Anything longer, please just chuck it out and use the second suede. Tip number 3. If possible, work indoors and in a cool environment. If the panels are too hot, when you apply the coating, it will just start becoming very hard to remove. It becomes sticky, it's very grippy. So try and work indoors if possible, and it's a clean environment indoors so you don't have problems with dust. Try and work indoors. Make sure the temperature is not too hot and the panels aren't too hot. Tip number 4. Make sure you apply enough product. If you don't, let's say you've got few drops on the pad and you've done a whole bonnet with it, it will cause streak marks which are hard to remove, and that will cause high spots. So when you're working with our product, make sure you use enough material, put on a thick layer, which is also easier to wipe off and it won't cause any issues either. So I've got a fresh new pad here. I'm going to apply enough product to start with. Make sure it's nice and saturated. And then put on a thick layer. You don't have to work too hard. Spread it evenly and the coating will do what it's supposed to. So I've put the coating on there, wait up to 30 seconds and then wipe it off. I always like to get the edges first so that the coating that I've got in this area doesn't transfer onto the other side. Again, because I'm only going to wipe this area. If I don't wipe this area, that's where you can get high spots. I also like to work with smaller panels at a time. So if I've got a bonnet, I might coat it in 4 if it's a big bonnet, or in 2s. So if you work smaller panels at a time, or smaller areas at a time, it's actually easier to wipe the coating off. With the first microfiber cloth, we've removed all the bulk of the residue. Then I use the second microfiber cloth to remove anything that I might have missed. Once I've removed it, inspect it in good lighting to make sure I haven't got any residue that I haven't removed. Now's the time to remove it. If you leave it on there, let's say overnight, by tomorrow the coating is drying. It's hard to remove. You might have to polish it off. So take an extra second and make sure that you inspect and ensure you haven't got any residue that's still on the panel. Tip number 5. Once you've applied the product onto the pad, don't just leave the bottle on there like that. Take the lid, just put it on there, takes an extra second. The reason for that is if I just leave it like this, the oxygen's going inside the bottle and it will oxidize the product. You want to minimize that so that you're not ruining the product inside the bottle. take the lid, put it on, takes an extra second, and then continue applying it.